I've always had unusually high emotional intelligence. When I was little, a rich woman took a liking to my dad. I understood immediately and brought my young, handsome uncle over. Girl, my dad's prime is long gone. My uncle is hotter. When a coworker lost a project to me and cried like the world was ending, I understood immediately and introduced her to two interns on our team who were both 6'2" and 18. Ms. Parker, you let me win this time. I'm not an ungrateful woman. These two cute boys are yours to get to know. Thanks to this emotional intelligence, I moved through my social circles like a fish in water. Until one day, I transmigrated into an angst romance novel as the substitute heroine nobody even wanted. The White Moonlight hated the original heroine for stealing the male lead. For the male lead, she framed and tortured the heroine again and again, until the heroine died miserably on the street. Looking at the male lead in front of me, his face cold as he warned me to treat his White Moonlight well from now on, I nodded. Then I enthusiastically revealed the two male models standing behind me. Sweetheart, it's our first meeting, and I didn't know what you liked. So I brought you two male models as a little gift. As the saying goes, you don't slap a smiling face. Grace Whitfield's icy expression twitched, as if she had been shocked speechless. I pressed my advantage and bent slightly, grabbing her hand with both of mine. Sweetie, you've been hanging from one tree too long. You don't know how handsome, obedient, enthusiastic, and most importantly, clean the younger boys are these days. That sentence seemed to carry an extra meaning. I paused. Of course, I'm not saying Mr. Ford isn't clean. I patted Grace's hand. Sweetie, life is only a few tens of thousands of days. Women need to be good to themselves. Isn't it a shame to waste your youth on an overcooked old vegetable? I turned to the two men. Boys, hurry and introduce yourselves to Miss Whitfield. The two male models, both broad-shouldered, narrow-waisted, handsome, and perfectly built, hurried to Grace's side and greeted her in voices that were shy yet gentle. Grace instinctively backed up 2 steps, her face burning red. This isn't appropriate, is it? Seeing this, Malcolm Ford roared at me in disbelief. Ivy Lane, what are you doing? I told you to treat Grace well, and this is how you treat her. I was confused. I scratched my head hesitantly. What? Am I not treating her well enough? I still have the agency's number. Should I call a few more? You, Ivy Lane, well done. Malcolm angrily dragged Grace out from between the two male models and turned to leave with her. You stay here and reflect on yourself. I had no idea what I was supposed to reflect on. Was I wrong to save myself as an angst novel heroine? My dear vicious supporting female lead framed me again and again for this male lead, making me donate blood, kneel as punishment, and get locked in a freezer. When you got to the root of it, she did all that because of Malcolm Ford, this crooked little tree. Was I wrong to tell her the world was vast? After all, 3-legged frogs are hard to find, but men with 2 legs are everywhere. With Grace's family background, she could absolutely choose a partner who was more handsome, younger, and emotionally stable. Just like every romance novel plot, Malcolm left me where I stood and took Grace to a luxury store, then to a romantic dinner for 2. As I packed my luggage, I happened to see a private message from Grace. You really are sinister. Malcolm told me everything. Those men were part of your plan to make me leave him. You found so many male models to tempt me and make Malcolm think I'm a fickle woman. But I'm telling you now, I will always be his White Moonlight. The person he loves most will always be me. You have no right to compete with me. The corner of my mouth twitched. At that moment, the sound of the front door opening came from downstairs. Malcolm walked in cold-faced and ordered me to make him hangover soup. My fingers flew across my phone screen. Sweetie, that isn't love. If he really loved you, why would he find me as a substitute? From here to Europe is only a 7-hour flight. You were studying abroad, not leaving the biosphere. Did he really need a substitute? To put it another way, even if you had left the biosphere, if he had even a shred of decency, he wouldn't have found a substitute like me within a month. Sweetie, you're too innocent. You don't understand. He just wants to have 2 women at once. The substitute thing is his excuse. If you don't believe me, go find a substitute too. See how he reacts. The other side was silent for a long time. I carried my suitcase downstairs. Malcolm was leaning on the sofa like some grand lord, staring at me coldly with the expression of a man who had seen through everything. Ivy, don't think you can make Grace leave me with little tricks. You're only a substitute. You need to understand your place. Besides, Grace doesn't care for the men you found. Then he spoke as if granting me mercy. Ivy, I know you don't want to leave me. Don't worry. After Grace and I get married, there will still be a place for you by my side. I lifted my suitcase and shook my head at him. Nice fantasy, but when Miss Whitfield gets married, there might not be a place for you beside her. You might not even qualify as the side piece. Malcolm shot to his feet. What do you mean? I smiled at him, hesitating while staring at his face for a long time. Then I shook my head and sighed. Nothing much. It's just that Mr. Ford should find time for some facial maintenance. Then I dragged my suitcase out into the endless night. I was done serving him. Anyway, the original heroine had been a substitute for 3 years. She must have saved quite a bit of money. I could live a good life from now on. Humming, I booked a hotel room. Then I opened the bank balance. $385.79. I fell silent. So the $5,000 I spent hiring male models just now was my last savings. An angst novel heroine got tortured by the male lead for 3 years, and her wallet didn't even have 4 digits? Even a nanny should have saved hundreds of thousands after 3 years. What exactly had she been chasing? Furious, I opened my messaging app and found Grace in my contacts. Sweetie, to create enough space for you to test Malcolm, I've already moved out of his place. But this man really has terrible character. We agreed back then that he'd pay me $1 million a month. but now he's withholding my wages. What exactly do you see in a man who doesn't even honor his word? Think about it, sweetie. Today he can kick me out of his house with no money and make me sleep on the street. Tomorrow he can make you leave with nothing. Marrying him is too risky. I truly advise you to reconsider. If you're willing, we can meet. I promise I'll tell you everything. After I sent that whole string of provocation, Malcolm finally realized I had left the villa. What are you doing, Ivy? You've grown a temper. Now you're running away from home? Don't forget, your mother's medical fees are still waiting for me to pay. In a few days, you'll crawl back and beg me. I was not the original Ivy, who only knew how to feel wronged and do nothing. As a woman experienced in worldly games, I cursed him, then skillfully deleted and blocked him in one smooth move. The next day, Grace asked to meet me. She chose a cafe. She wore a coffee-colored dress, with very little makeup. Her face was full of hesitation and conflict. I think what you said makes sense, but I still think you're doing this, so I'll give up Malcolm and you can take his side. I've seen plenty of women like you. I didn't come today for advice. I'll give you 1 million to leave Malcolm. I already knew she would not trust me, but I grew even more enthusiastic. Sweetie, that's where you're wrong. Do I look like I'm doing this for money? Forget everything else. With your face alone, you're so beautiful. I only look 30% like you, and people call me a beauty. What about you? You're the real top-tier beauty. After Mr. Ford has seen someone like you, how could he marry someone who only has 30% of your looks? And your family background is so good. I don't know what Malcolm told you to make you this insecure, but look at your family. Look at your face. Why would you think I can compare with you? Even if you don't want Malcolm, a man who once liked you wouldn't look at me. Grace looked a little embarrassed by my sincerity. I seized the chance. I know you're afraid Malcolm will be angry, but think about it. Since you came back, has he ever publicly confirmed your relationship? He's stringing you along. So what's wrong with you dating someone too? I guarantee that once you know what real dating feels like, you'll understand how badly Malcolm treats you. If you're really worried, we can keep it secret. You can pay me a little and hire me, and we can sign a confidentiality agreement. Everything will be your choice. Grace wavered. Does Malcolm really treat me badly? But he bought me many things and took me to a Campbell at dinner. I spread my hands. But can't you buy those things yourself? You're the only daughter of the Whitfield family. People should be placing the best things in front of you. If you really can't accept it, think of this as revenge for his 3 years of wavering. Finding a substitute is not something a decent person does. Are you willing to let that go without payback? My words hit Grace right where it hurt. Fine, we'll sign a confidentiality agreement. Actually, when Malcolm told me he found a substitute because he missed me too much, I did feel uncomfortable. But there was always a voice in my ear saying he only did it because he cared about me. After hearing you say this today, I'm starting to doubt it. I smiled at her. Doubt is good. From now on, I will serve as your relationship consultant and help screen eligible men around you. If you like anyone, you can try getting to know him. I'll also help you monitor Malcolm's emotional state in real time. Grace shook my hand, just as I said. Grace was beautiful, from a good family, and highly educated. The men who wanted to pursue her could line up from one end of the city to the other. Before, she had only focused all her attention on Malcolm. Now that news spread that she was willing to go on dates, those who secretly liked her came rushing forward, especially a handsome young man named Ryder Cole, who worked hard every day to create chance encounters. After learning I was Grace's relationship consultant, he directly slapped a $5 million check onto my desk. Help me pursue Grace. Whether I succeed or not, the $5 million is yours. Holding Ryder's $5 million, I almost cried. The original heroine followed Malcolm for 3 years and only had a few $100s. This young master gave $5 million in one move. I looked into Ryder's background. The Cole family was old money, clean background, good upbringing. His grandfather, father, and older brother had no mistresses or scandalous side families. He was not the eldest son, so he had no heavy pressure. His personality was lively, and he liked extreme sports, but he also kept himself clean. As for Grace, she had been restrained by her family since childhood, always proper and disciplined. The two of them were perfectly complementary, a natural pair. Of course, only if Malcolm did not get in the way. A few days after Grace and Ryder became ordinary friends, the four of us met at the same banquet. After not seeing Malcolm for more than 10 days, he was still as annoying as ever. Beside him was a female companion with a great figure. The moment Grace saw him, she instinctively wanted to distance herself from Ryder. She walked toward Malcolm to explain. But what I did not expect was that Malcolm saw me first. He smiled with a self-important expression. Ivy, you chased me all the way here? What? Have you finally thought it through? Being my lover is your best choice. Faced with someone so confident, I truly did not know what to say. Before I could speak, he noticed Grace beside me. Looks like you really thought it through. I'm satisfied seeing you two getting along like this.
Malcolm straightened his cufflinks with the smug confidence of a man who had never once questioned himself. Gracie, I told you Ivy would come to her senses. She knows where she belongs. I looked around the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, a live orchestra, half the city's elite. Perfect, I smiled brightly. Mr. Ford, you're right, I did come to my senses. His lips curled upward. I knew it. Finally realized something. I walked forward and raised my champagne glass. I've been far too polite. Before Malcolm could react, I turned toward the nearby guests. Ladies and gentlemen, my clear voice echoed across the hall. I'd like everyone's opinion on a small relationship dilemma. Conversations stopped one after another. Even the violinists lowered their volume. Malcolm's smile froze. What are you doing? I ignored him. So here's the story. Man dates one woman for 3 years. When she goes abroad, he immediately finds another woman who looks like her. When the first woman comes back, he tells the substitute to continue serving him, And then, he tells both women there will always be a place for them by his side. I blinked innocently. So, is this true love? Or is this just buying one and getting one free? The ballroom went dead silent. Then someone couldn't hold back a laugh. Joined. Within seconds, laughter spread through the crowd. Several wealthy ladies looked at Malcolm with open disgust. That's shameless. So he wanted both women, and he actually said it out loud. Malcolm's face darkened. Ivy, stop twisting my words. Not twisting anything. I pulled out my phone. I recorded it. His pupils contracted. I pressed play. His own arrogant voice filled the ballroom. After Grace and I get married, there will still be a place for you by my side. Every word was crystal clear. The laughter disappeared. This time the silence was far heavier. Grace slowly turned to look at Malcolm. So, you really meant it? Malcolm panicked for the first time. Grace, listen to me. That's not what Not what? A cheerful voice interrupted. Ryder walked over carrying 2 glasses of juice instead of wine. One naturally went into Grace's hand, the other, he offered to me. Miss Lane, you've been talking so much. You must be thirsty. I accepted it gratefully. Thank you. Malcolm stared at Ryder. And who are you? Ryder smiled politely. The man currently waiting in line. He looked at Grace. I know I arrived late. If someone doesn't treasure the person in front of him, his eyes drifted toward Malcolm. Someone else eventually will. Grace's cheeks turned slightly red. For the first time since entering the banquet, she didn't immediately defend Malcolm. Instead, she quietly took a sip of the juice Ryder had handed her. That tiny movement was enough. Malcolm's expression finally cracked. He reached for Grace's wrist. Come with me, before his hand could touch her. Someone blocked him. It wasn't Ryder, it was Grace herself. She took one step back. No, Malcolm froze. No, Grace smiled faintly. You once told me I was your white moonlight. Now I understand, I'm not your moonlight. I'm simply the woman you expected to wait forever while you collected substitutes. She glanced toward me. Fortunately, I met someone with unusually high emotional intelligence. I immediately waved. Happy to help. Guests burst into laughter again. Malcolm's face alternated between red and pale for the first time in his life. He realized the person leaving him behind wasn't Ivy, it was Grace. Malcolm stood rooted to the spot as Grace walked away with Ryder. For the first time, no matter how loudly he called her name, she didn't look back. Grace! Grace, stop! His voice echoed through the ballroom, attracting even more attention. Grace paused for only a second. Without turning around, she calmly said, Mr. Ford, please conduct yourself appropriately. I'm not your girlfriend, I'm not your fiancé. After tonight, I'm not even your friend. With that, she disappeared into the crowd beside Ryder. The banquet erupted into whispers. I heard the Whitfield family has never approved of Malcolm, so the substitute was real. How shameless. I can't believe he planned to keep both women. Malcolm's jaw clenched so tightly the veins on his forehead bulged. Then he turned toward me. This is all your fault. I blinked innocently. My fault? You've been poisoning Grace against me. I sighed dramatically. Mr. Ford. If someone can be poisoned by a few sentences, doesn't that mean they were already questioning you? His expression stiffened. I continued mercilessly. Besides, I only repeated what you yourself did. You found a substitute. You admitted you wanted us both. You threatened me with my mother's medical bills. I didn't invent any of it. I simply organized your actions into chronological order. Surrounding guests struggled to hide their smiles. One elderly chairman even nodded approvingly. Young lady, your summary skills are excellent. Malcolm's face turned black. You think you've won. You have no money, no job, no connections. You'll be begging me within a month. I smiled. Really? Just then Ryder walked back over. I almost forgot. He handed me another envelope. This is the remaining consultation fee. Decided to renew the contract. Malcolm frowned. What contract? Ryder answered casually. Relationship consultant. Miss Lane is helping me pursue Grace. Malcolm laughed coldly. How much could that possibly pay? Ryder thought seriously. The first payment was 5 million. The renewal. He glanced at me. Let's make it another 5 million. Silence, complete silence. Malcolm stared at the check as though his soul had left his body. 10 million. Meanwhile, I quietly calculated in my head. 10 million. That was enough to hire 2,000 male models. No, I couldn't become addicted to spending. I had to be responsible, so maybe only 1,000. Seeing me lost in thought, Ryder asked, is it not enough? I immediately snapped back. No, I mean, definitely help you. Never seen two people more compatible. Malcolm finally exploded. Grace, you're paying this woman to interfere in our relationship. Grace looked genuinely confused. Our relationship? When exactly did we have one? You never officially confessed. Never publicly acknowledged me. You dated someone else while saying you loved me. She smiled faintly. If anyone interfered, it was you. Malcolm opened his mouth but couldn't say a single word because every sentence was true. Not one could be denied. Just then my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered. Hello, a respectful voice came through. Miss Lane, calling from Ford Group's legal department. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, we've reviewed the employment agreement between you and Mr. Ford. According to the contract, the compensation he owes you has been confirmed. I instantly became interested. How much? The lawyer cleared his throat. With unpaid salary, overtime, emotional damages stipulated in the agreement and breach penalties, the total comes to $36.8 million. The banquet became so quiet that a champagne cork popping somewhere across the room sounded like thunder. I slowly turned toward Malcolm. He had gone completely pale. The lawyer continued, Mr. Ford instructed us not to process your payment before. The board of directors has overruled his decision. Sincerely apologize. When would you like the funds transferred? I smiled so brightly my cheeks hurt. Then I looked at Malcolm. Mr. Ford, I suddenly remembered something. He stared blankly at me. What? I tilted my head with a sweet smile. You said I'd come crawling back. I held up my phone. It seems it's your money that's crawling back to me instead. The next morning, the entire city woke up to the same headline. Ford Group heir exposed for keeping a substitute girlfriend. Someone at the banquet had uploaded the recording. Malcolm's words, "After Grace and I get married, there will still be a place for you by my side," spread across the internet overnight. His carefully cultivated image as the perfect gentleman shattered instantly. The board of directors was furious. Several major partners suspended negotiations, saying they did not want to be associated with someone whose private conduct had become a public joke. Within a week, Malcolm was stripped of several important projects. Meanwhile, my bank account received exactly $36.8 million. I stared at the string of zeros for a full minute. Then I called the hospital, my mother's surgery. I'd like to pay everything in advance. The first time since arriving in this ridiculous novel, I finally felt like I could breathe. As promised, I continued working as Grace's relationship consultant. Unlike Malcolm, Ryder never tried to impress Grace with expensive gifts alone. When Grace casually mentioned she liked old bookstores, he spent an entire afternoon searching the city until he found a first edition of her favorite novel. When she worked late, he quietly left dinner outside her office without asking for credit. When she said she wanted space, he simply smiled and waited. No pressure, no manipulation, no games. One afternoon, Grace suddenly asked me, was dating always supposed to feel peaceful? I laughed. Exactly. If love feels like taking an exam every day, you're probably with the wrong person. Several months later, Grace and Ryder officially announced their relationship. The Whitfield and Cole families were delighted. Even the financial news described it as a match made in heaven. I happily accepted another consultation bonus from Ryder. Being a relationship consultant really was a promising career. As for Malcolm, he came looking for me one rainy afternoon. Gone was the arrogant heir who believed every woman revolved around him. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes were bloodshot. Ivy, I finally understand. I was wrong. I should have chosen you. I looked at him for a few seconds before smiling. No, you shouldn't have chosen anyone. You should have learned how to respect people. He took a step forward. Can we start over? I couldn't help laughing. Mr. Ford, when your favorite restaurant closes, do you expect the chef to reopen just because you're hungry? You didn't lose me because someone stole me away. You lost me because you assumed I'd never leave. His shoulders slumped. For the first time, there wasn't a single word he could use to argue. I turned and walked away without looking back. Just as I reached the street, my phone buzzed. It was Grace. Sweetie, Ryder proposed. A photo followed. Grace was smiling brighter than I'd ever seen while Ryder looked at her as though she were the only person in the world. I smiled and replied immediately. Congratulations. Remember to make him sign the prenuptial agreement. A second later, Ryder snatched the phone and replied himself. Already signed it. Anything else, Consultant Lane? I typed back. Treat her well for the rest of your life. That's my only condition. His reply came almost instantly. Deal. I slipped my phone into my pocket and looked up at the clear blue sky. Only then did I realize something. The original heroine's fate had never been doomed from the beginning. She had simply loved the wrong person. Sometimes, emotional intelligence wasn't about reading people's feelings. It was about recognizing who was worth your heart and having the courage to walk away from those who never were. With $36 million in the bank, a healthy mother, and no emotionally unstable CEO chasing me anymore, I smiled to myself. After all, 3-legged frogs might be hard to find, but men with 2 legs, they were everywhere. The end.